Right, the impeachment case of embattled or former Deputy President Gachagua ongoing there at the Milimani Law Courts. Of course, what we've heard is that they're going to be resuming the sittings at 3:30 p.m. But before that happens, perhaps we just want to dissect exactly what happened in the morning session. And this afternoon, I'm joined by Eliud Ngoge, a lawyer, just to try and tell us what really happened in layman's language so that we can understand that particular session that happened in the morning, where petitioners were given a chance to argue their case on one, the Attorney General seeking to lift conservatory orders, stopping the swearing in of Deputy President-elect Abraham Kithure Kindiki, as well as just the case and as well as the constitutionality and the process that happened in regards to the impeachment of Deputy President, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Perhaps let us just take it from there, Eliud. Good afternoon and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Today was actually, I believe, this first day we are going into the details of what the impeachment court process looks like, where the AG has had filed an application, or rather filed an application last week, seeking for the conservatory orders to be lifted to allow the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya to go ahead and swear in the current CS Interior, Professor Kithure Kindiki. And so we had the applicants who are the AG and the lawyers for the AG who have an in tandem, or rather have a closer case with the Senate lawyers and the National Assembly lawyers and the lawyers for the President of the Republic of Kenya argue their application, which application was, they looked at why we need to have Kindiki, Professor, sworn in. And they were looking at different reasons. One of them, they were claiming that we have a vacuum in this country, and therefore we deserve to not allow, in case we don't have a deputy president, that's what they were arguing, and in case the president who is sitting, anything tragic was to happen to him, then there will be a huge vacuum. But then the respondent, who are the lawyers for Honorable Gachagua, came in, and many other petitioners, because we have over 30 petitions which have been filed to stop the impeachment process, and other petitions which are raising issues with the process that was followed through. They came in and argued strongly, led by my former teacher, Elisha Ongoya, and argued and said that there's actually no vacuum. There's no vacuum if we wait until the swearing, the court process is hard, the main petitions are hard, then we do not need to go ahead and swear in Professor Kindiki.
Is it because of the conservatory orders that, fills in the vacuum, in that Rigathi Gachagua is still the deputy president?
It's not, it's actually the conservatory order, because the meaning of a conservatory order is basically an order telling the court to conserve, or rather, let the status quo remain. And what the status quo is currently is we have an elected deputy president who is Gachagua. And so with that position, then the conservatory order means that we cannot have any vacuum because we already have a sitting president, deputy president. And nothing would go wrong, because also the Constitution provides that in case where we do not have the president and the deputy president, then the Speaker of the National Assembly comes in and does the function of a president. So there will be no space in between.
But Eliud, we have a deputy president-elect who is more of like sharing some benefits that come with the deputy president, I presume. That is Abraham Kithure Kindiki. For example, maybe I think his security was beefed up since he was nominated. When you say when the President William Ruto perhaps travels and there's that vacuum, and we have an elected deputy president and a nominated deputy president, where does that leave the country?
You see, the court is looking at the process which was followed at the Senate and even at the National Assembly. And therefore, if today we were to lift these conservatory orders, what then will happen is the case that has been filed by the lawyers for Deputy President Gachagua would end up being an academic exercise, because we'd already have a deputy president. And when we have a deputy president, it basically means the impeached Honorable Gachagua will then have a very hard time after going through the court process, coming back, and now we removing the Professor Kindiki from the office. And that's why we are saying it's important to conserve, or rather we are saying, it's important to conserve to hold on to have the conservatory orders and not to swear in Professor Kindiki, because then the questions which have been raised by the petitioners will not have a proper chance to be heard.
All right.
And there are actual issues, there are issues which have happened, we saw them happening. And so it's important to actually allow all the parties to be heard, because the other interpretation that they have raised in court was, we have the president, and even as Kenyans, we have 74 days to have a deputy president. So there is no hurry in this process. We should allow the process to be finalized, the court process to be finalized, and then we can then say that the conservatory orders can be lifted.
So are you trying to say that perhaps if the judges are to, go in favor of the state and lift the conservatory orders and swear in Abraham Kithure Kindiki, the case of Deputy President, that's the end of it? That's the end of the road for him?
Not really, because we have seen before where the court has reinstated a governor. And so in this case, if they were to proceed and lift the conservatory orders, then we'll still continue with the hearing of the main case. Remember, today, what we had in court is just an application for conservatory orders. We still have petitions which have been filed, over 30 applications which have been filed on the issue to do with the process which was followed by the Senate, by the National Assembly. And so we will have a chance to still proceed, only that the law is that if there's a prima facie or there's a case to be heard, if there's any damage to be caused, and I saw a lawyer by the name of Shadrach Wambui argue that there is a cost implication if we proceed with the swearing in of Professor Kindiki. What will happen is they can still proceed, but we're going to lose so much as a country. So that's the scenario that we expect to see.
And perhaps just maybe a Kenyan will want to know, if at all Kindiki is sworn in as deputy president, the case against the impeachment of Deputy President Gachagua goes on, and he wins this case, what will happen at that time? Would you come and remove Kindiki as the deputy president? Will you have two deputy presidents?
We're saying this is a historic moment in Kenya. This is the very first time that the provisions of our Constitution 2010 are being challenged. Articles 149 are being challenged on how to remove a deputy president. And therefore, it would be very interesting to see what would happen if we had Professor Kindiki sworn in, and then a deputy president wins the case in court. It would be quite interesting to watch the scenario, because I believe if orders were to be issued by the court and they were to be served upon a deputy president who is sitting, as in this case being Kindiki, then it would be a very interesting scenario to see if there will be a reversal process, because under the Constitution, we have only very few grounds where we can remove a sitting deputy president. And one of those scenarios is through impeachment, through sickness, through resignation. So we do not foresee where a court order is served to reverse the process by which someone is already sitting in that seat.
One of the key issues that the petitioners were raising this morning actually was the hurriedness of the impeachment motion of then Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, because you wake up in the morning, he's impeached. Next minute, MPs have, State House has sent in a name for the nomination. Next thing, Parliament has approved the nomination of Kithure Kindiki. Where does that leave Kindiki in this particular case? Because when you look at the constitutionality, the IEBC is required to verify the nomination of this candidate. The Kindiki should also have resigned 3 months prior to that. So where does that actually leave all these Kithure Kindiki's nomination as the deputy president?
This is where the court says that you should not discuss matters which are in court when they are ongoing, because these are some of the issues which are being raised.
Yes.
What does this leave us with?
Yes.
We are looking at the process. Was it properly done? Did we have a proper constituted IEBC? Did we have the office of EACC, which is run by Bishop Oginde, at work in the middle of the night? These are some of the questions which have come up in this argument, and I believe the judges are listening, and they are going to make a well-reasoned out decision
but
when it comes
to
to
the
that
Constitution,
yes.
right? According to the Constitution, IEBC has to be in place so that they can verify this particular nominee that is one. Two, public participation, in that Kenyans are given a leeway to give their views on the nominee of a deputy president. Those are just some of the concerns in terms of...
There are two sides of this conversation. Because when you plainly read the provisions of Article 144, 145, 148, 149 of the Constitution on impeachment of a deputy president, it just says that the president, upon receiving the name from the Speaker of the Senate, shall proceed to nominate and send that name of the nominee to Parliament. It does not give any other provisions. That's one argument that is being made by one side. The other side comes in and says, no. This is an electorate process where in a normal election process, we have to also look at the Elections Act. We have to look at the procedure of nominating a candidate for that office. And through that process, when we go into an election season, we have to present, for example, their academic documents. We have to go to the DCI office and EACC offices and get those certificates to show that they have not committed any crime. They are proper for that office. That's the other side that is arguing that. And so we ask, what is the actual position? And this decision is going to help us very much to make it clear in future, because this is the very first time we are having this impeachment process of a deputy president. This is going to help us in future because it will help us have a proper guideline. And someone has even argued today that we do not have some rules and regulations on the impeachment process. We are only reading plainly the Constitution. And what happens with any constitutional provision, it has to be given the legs and the feet and the ears and the mouth through as a legislation, like when we have an act of parliament. So we don't have an act of parliament that supports the impeachment process. So this is a momentous moment. This is a historic moment in Kenya because we await to see what the three judges are going to do. Are they going to give a direction? Are they going to help us avoid such a scenario in future?
That makes me wonder, because when we go back to the impeachment of Meru governor, that is Kawera Mwangaza, after she was successfully impeached by the Senate, the next day they rushed to court. She got a conservatory order and she was back to her office. Now we also have a deputy president here. I don't know whether it's similar, because successfully impeached, goes to court, gets a conservatory order, but cannot access his office. How different are these two impeachments, perhaps?
So they are similar. They are similar processes. Only issue is that one has a lot more attention and has more interest because it's for the national office. This is the office of the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, while the other was for the county government, or rather the governor of the county. And therefore, when we have these impeachment processes, it's both legal and political. So in a political process, there are a lot of factors to be involved. There's a lot of, for example, political influence that goes on. There's a lot of, probably, you even saw in the Senate, the evidence that was being produced wasn't as heavy, for lack of a better word, as it will be in a court process. Because it is a political process. So you do not have to prove all these 8 or 7 allegations that were being made, or 11 allegations that were being made, word for word, and by producing that evidence. All you needed to do was allege and allege. But when it comes to now the finalization and getting a conservatory order, what is coming into play is you have a conservatory order, which makes Honorable Rigathi Gachagua still the deputy president of this country, because the status quo has been retained.
So at the moment, do we have 2 deputy presidents?
An opinion has been given that we have 2 deputy presidents, but when you look keenly at the interpretation of the Constitution, you cannot have a vacancy in the office of a deputy president. And with the court order, the conservatory order being in place, it has already maintained the status quo
yeah,
of the person who already took the oath of office. Currently, Professor Kithure Kindiki has not taken the oath of office, and therefore he's just a nominee. He is not the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. And so, on the other hand, we have an impeachment process which has been challenged in court, and therefore, pending the hearing of this impeachment process, we would still say that he is an impeached deputy president, but he still remains in office. Because you cannot leave a gap.
Okay, but one will wonder, why is Gachagua going all this way? You know, why don't you just let it go? Because at the end of the day, someone may wonder, you have a relationship that seems imparable with the president. So when perhaps you survive, perhaps Rigathi Gachagua survives, how is he going to work with the president? Perhaps people are wondering, why go all this way? Why not let it go?
Our constitution gives power to the president and the deputy president. The election process allows each Kenyan to choose the leader. I would believe that Deputy President Gachagua would actually is entitled to whatever he is going for, and even for the fight, because 1, he was elected by the Kenyans. 2, he feels that a proper process was not, didn't go through the Senate and the National Assembly. And therefore, the allegations made against the person. For example, if today people out there went and said untrue things about you as a person, and you knew deep down, these things are not true, I believe you would still stand on your feet and say that these things are untrue about you as a person. And so, I believe him as a person, as an elected leader, he owes, for example, what he says, the Murima people, an obligation to continue sitting in that position and being their leader. So that's why he may be fighting for it. But also, understanding that as a Kenyan, under the provisions of Article 48, the right to be heard, the right to fair trial, you can challenge any decisions being made against you. And so he's standing on that. He has constitutional rights to fight and claim that he needed a fair trial. He needed to be heard. He was sick. Why is he not being given a chance to be heard? So until such a thing happens to such a person, then I believe he's in his right mind to fight for his position and to fight and stay still in that position, even if his relationship with his boss may not be working. Yeah.
So in short, you're trying to tell us that should he be reinstated, it has to work between him and President William Ruto. There's no two way about it. But of course, at the same time, there's so many questions in regards to what is there for him to lose. Because remember, if he is successfully impeached, he's not going to vie for any elective position going forward for about 10 years, right? And is there any way he can try and battle that out in court? Or his just case is it's either you're impeached or you save yourself from being impeached?
Yes, there are cases which have come to court. One of them being the Sonko case, the other one being the Kiambu governor case, former Kiambu governor Waititu case, where they were declared unfit for office. And so, if he does not fight this in court, and I know he's going through this whole process to verify himself, to find that, to make sure that the courts declare that the process done by the Senate and the National Assembly was not proper, and they did not follow the law, then he's fighting to make sure that he's not declared fit to not run for any other office in this country. So that's why he may be fighting in court today. Yeah.
So why wouldn't he have resigned earlier? Because now, you know, for him now, it's either you save yourself or you save yourself. There is no two way about it. Because if you're not saved, you're going home.
Well, I think in his right mind, he knew that he's elected by the Kenyan people.
Yes.
Number two, whatever allegations were being made, probably they were untrue to him, and there's no way he was going to resign and leave that office. And so he has a chance. That's what probably he feels, to go and fight it out. I believe any person who watched the proceedings and watched even the cross-examination by Advocate Elisha Ongoya, can tell you that there was no proper case that was put in the Senate. For example, even beyond that, if we were to say that there was a proper case, was he given a chance to be heard? And that's the right thing to do. Just go out there and fight for yourself.
So perhaps you can enlighten us on what really the law says about or here trial where he was supposed to be given that right to actually come and defend himself. And for him, since he left the hospital, he says that he was denied that right because he just felt sick. Anyone can get sick. So when it comes to the courts, when it comes to the law, how does that favor Gachagua?
Well, there is a provision under the law on the Bill of Rights, which is, we call it authoritative, or rather, it's a Latin word, but the actual word is hear the other party, which is a Bill of Rights. Anywhere under the law, if you are going to enjoy your rights as a human being, you need to be heard.
Yes.
And so he's claiming that. And so from the Bill of Rights, he deserved, even though he was unwell, he deserved to maybe given a chance. And they had requested, because it was on a Friday, they had requested, can they resume back? And this was done by Senior Counsel Muite. Can they be allowed a chance to come back on a Tuesday? Because Monday was a public holiday. And so that one, the members of the Senate acclaimed.
They were rushing against time.
They acclaimed and said no. But what time? Because when you look at the interpretation of the Constitution, when the matter is referred to the Senate had a chance to either appoint a committee of 11 members, and after, if they were to go that direction, they needed to give a decision within those 14 days. But on the other hand, if they do not go with that committee, the Constitution provides that they have another 70 days to finalize this process. And so there was no hurry, there was no urgency in doing this.
But according to the Speaker's timelines, according to his calculations from when the motion was tabled at the Senate, the time was supposed to lapse that Saturday. The hearing window was supposed to lapse that Saturday.
And this is why we are saying they have gone to court to challenge that, because under the Constitution, that is not the correct position. They had a chance to continue hearing, and they had a chance to even allow the Deputy President to come and present his own case. Yeah.
Right. Well, those are just some of the sentiments that are happening in our courts, and that particular ruling continues. I mean, that hearing of the impeachment of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua goes on later on this afternoon. And of course, we are going to be heading back to Milimani Law Courts once that commences. But for now, we're going to take a very short commercial break, but we'll be right back with more.